Chapter 5 of Primavera is on food, the Italian food of my childhood, and the evocative power of food in general. Certain tastes call to you powerfully over the abyss of time. Here are two short extracts from Chapter 5. Funny food. Vasti duts were an example of funny food, an actual food preparation transformed by humour into an incantation of remote familiarity. Vasti duts summoned up all the black-garbed old women of Salina to them, the powerful matriarchy that was the driving heart of the island. Ancient women like Zi Concetta, with the tooth that Adrian always compared to a cashew nut hanging out over her lip. Another Zi Concetta, who recognised and tabulated all the degrees of relationship with visiting Australians. Annina, Tom's cousin, short, droll, grumpy and lovable, needy and generous. Concetta, yet another of the Concettas, Concetta who lived with Annina, with priest-like smooth, pudgy white skin, fathomless black eyes behind thick glasses, and the concentrated practicality of the left-handed. One dark evening, early in one of Giulia's visits to Salina, these sisters and other nameless old women, black wraiths, had come unannounced to Annina's house and taken Giulia to one of the little shops on the narrow main street. Only after several minutes did Giulia realise that she herself was to be weighed by the big balance that usually weighed fish and produce. No, non ne voglio, che vergogna, come un pezzo di carne. No, I don't want to, how horrible, like a piece of meat. Her protests were in vain. The women were going to weigh her, literally quantify her. Their purpose was as inexorable as the ocean's tide, their conviction as indisputable as weather. Eventually, Giulia had to be silent, take off her shoes and step sullenly onto the scales. In the lamplight, the shadows of the women played on the bare stone walls of the shop, a preposterous animated frieze above the dark bulk of sacks and boxes. They assessed, they muttered, they took readings, they consulted. At length they had enough information. They recorded the results. The same ritual took place, with the same ineffectual opposition from Giulia, at the end of her month's stay, and the women seemed gratified that they could put a precise number on the amount of hospitality consumed. The very word vasti duts, apocryphated beginning and end, screamed in a particular screechy, obscurely vengeful tone, evoked all of this and much more. And when Adrian started his manic incantation, the response was always, through helpless laughter, "You're mad." This, from cousin to cousin, was invariably a compliment and a sign of solidarity, like soldiers joking on the battlefield, or surgeons and nurses in the operating theatre. They could only really deal with the expectations and constrictions of the emergency, that is, La Famiglia Italiana, by means of a ritualised craziness. Adrian had a gift for funny food. He always offered Giulia wine, quoting from Stanley Kubrick's film A Clockwork Orange. "Try the wine!" with a hilarious show of the ill-disguised hatred of the original. The perfectly adaptable diplomat, when posted in Paris, he prepared elegant French meals of exquisite proportions. When in San Francisco, he made huge, unhealthy meals for himself, or he would delight in talking to Jack, of Hungry Jack's, through the drive-in speaker as he ordered greasy, fried food. Pushing this tact of food to mannerist extremes, he sometimes cooked meals of one colour, all white meals, or all yellow meals, or meals coordinated solely by a particular shape. Zucchini can be funny. They had figured memorably in the film Les Contes Immoraux that Giulia and Adrian had seen in Paris. After that, phallic zucchini would appear by themselves around the door of her bedroom. She would find one nestling on a towel in the bathroom and, in the morning, A whole basket of them would be waiting next to her handbag. Julia had always found the banana inherently funny. In their childhood, Bruno's emblem was a banana. Something in his smile was reminiscent of a banana, and his daughter Lucia had the feature too. One school year, Julia had designed and made out of papier-mâché a 2-metre-high yellow banana as a mascot for her house, Xavier, at Brigidine. It had been very appealing. Maybe the banana by itself is appealing, a smile, generous, bendy, optimistic, phallic. But with the little shiny black shoes at the end of the skinny black legs, this particular banana was irresistible. Lest the catalogue of funny food appear to be predominantly phallic, like Was du Dutz, the oyster can be submitted as a catenic example of funny food. Note, the author owes the word catenic to Dr. Gary Symes, lexicographer and writer of a complete dictionary of sexual terminology, in preparation. Anyone who doubts that men have made language could consider the currency of the word phallic as compared to the currency of the word catenic, of or pertaining to the kateis, Greek for cunt. This English derivative, moreover, only coined as late as 1895. Anyway, the oyster. They have an eccentric sex life. Left to themselves, and they almost never are, they live to be 50 years old. They are comic in the way they present themselves on a plate, smooth, mineral, unctuous, furled and plump. 1 minute they are all there, all 12 or so of them, lying expectantly in their rustic jewel cases, and the next minute, or so it seems, they are gone. But answer came there none, and this was scarcely odd because they'd eaten every one. The apotheosis of the Italian meal for Julia as a child was neither Neapolitan nor Salinese, but a meal at the Roccas, family friends originally from Catania and Calabria, who lived in the Ride countryside, as it was then. These meals took place once or twice a year, but they formed one quintessential meal memory. The Roccas were good cooks, but more importantly, they produced everything themselves. There was a sheer perfection of ingredient that would have made Horace weep. There was also an excess of these perfect ingredients that turned these occasions into marathon. The visit would start at around 4 p.m. after what felt like a very long drive into the country. After the greetings, you would be shown the latest renovations to the house, and then afternoon tea was served. Triple-tiered platters of elaborate Italian pastries were brought out, and one had to try everything. Once Bruno, already far too early feeling the characteristic Rocca fullness, said that he would halve a big creamy pastry with Julia. "Oh no, I want a whole one," interjected Julia, lying through suicidal devilment. When Bruno subsequently went on to claim nausea as an excuse for not eating more pastries, this measure too rebounded on him, and he was given a homemade stomach compound that left him doubled over in truth. After tea, a tour of the cellars and tastings of the homegrown wines. With the wine, large rounds of bread topped with big fresh prawns and mayonnaise, olives, ricotta, and home-cured salami. Dinner followed immediately after this. They all sat at a long table and dishes of steaming pasta were served, followed by roasted corn-fed chickens whose relatives they had been chasing an hour before, salsicce casalinghe, homemade pork sausages honeyed with fennel, and a range of exquisite vegetables, all piled high on the plate. A searchlight of unbearable concern was trained on you if even one vegetable was declined. It was difficult to say when exactly hospitality modulated to torture, or when, over the years, torture softened to nostalgia. On to the dessert. Fichi and grapes and peaches and cheese and zuppa inglese and creme caramel and the pastries back again. By the time home movies were shown, the children were drugged and sleepy. When chocolates were passed around in the darkness, one jolted to attention. What? Where am I? And tried to concentrate on the screen and the pre-recorded commentary. It was a teary and a fond farewell that we had from our dear ones at Sydney Airport as we winged our way. It always seemed very late and very dark when at length you dragged yourself to the car to go home, watched as the car boot was filled with vegetables and slumped into the seat. More than once, Julia had wished if only you could pace yourself and eat in a week what you were expected to eat in a night. They would not be hungry for days after these visits.